Alien Earth, the new series set in the Alien universe, released its first 2 episodes last night. Now, this is a show I was very much anticipating for reasons I'll get into here in a few moments, but I did watch the show, the first episode last night, and the second episode literally 10 minutes ago, before I sat here at this desk and started recording this video. Today, I'm going to give you my review of the first 2 episodes, and if this video does well, I will be making this a review series, reviewing each episode throughout the weeks as they come out. So, before I dive in, please make sure to subscribe, the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what are your opinions on Alien Earth, the first 2 episodes, if you have seen it. Now, be very clear here, it's not going to be a spoiler breakdown. I'm not going to dive into every little thing here, but there are going to be spoilers here. I'm not going to shy away from talking about spoilers because the 2 episodes are out and are available for you to watch at home right now. So, if you haven't seen them, don't watch this video because I will be spoiling them. And with that said, I was very much looking forward to Alien Earth. We are in a day and age where everything is getting a TV show. MCU, DCU, other things besides comic book movies that I can't think of the top of my head. But everything is getting a TV show with a bigger budget, not just a show for cable TV, but something for streaming services, something big that could be an event. I always thought a show inside the Alien universe was a great idea. As soon as they announced it, I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Not only within the movies have we explored other lore stuff like the androids and the companies here, but those were always just kind of teases within movies about aliens. I feel like with a show with the 8 or 9 or 10 hour episode formats, I feel like we could explore that much more than we could with a movie. And so, as soon as they announced the show, I was excited. I didn't know anything about it. I'm an idiot, and even though it's called Alien Earth, I still didn't quite think that it was set on Earth, because I'm stupid. I knew nothing about the show, except that it was an alien TV show, and that enough had me sold. And I will say that I'm very mixed positive on the show right now. There are things I really loved about these first 2 episodes. But there are things I kind of was like, I don't know what they're doing. Out of any idea you could choose to do here, this is what you're going with? So, let's go ahead and just start talking. The show begins off with kind of like a more traditional alien, you know? They're on the ship, they're waking up from Cairo sleep, and, you know, they're just sitting at the table, they're having discussions. For a brief second, I thought maybe it was like a re-scene from a different Alien movie, but no, it's not. They're just sitting around, and we keep getting flashbacks of carnage happening on the ship, which made me be like, okay, I wish we could have seen this carnage, but I guess because there's only 8 episodes in the season, and we're running out of time, that we couldn't necessarily see the carnage happening, but it's alluded to that. And I really liked when it's traditional Alien. Kind of cool stuff, you know? We got the characters on the ship. I was intrigued, but later on in the episode, the first episode, about half an hour into the episode, we get kind of a flash forward, you know, the alien already escaped. These people are going to this planet, and they are collecting specimens. So they have all of these aliens on board. Not only a xenomorph, but they have some face huggers. They have some aliens we haven't seen before, which I will touch on here in a few moments. But I thought that was very interesting, and when we flash forward, the xenomorph escaped. The xenomorph killed everybody except one character who is, I don't necessarily remember his name. We'll call him Cyborg because he is a cyborg on the ship. And he's sitting in the control room where Mother's at. He's doing all the typing things on the computer. And the xenomorph, a character runs to the wall begging to come in. And the xenomorph from behind kills her. He goes into the panic room, into the crash room, because the ship is crashing into Earth. Yes, that's right. For the first time, a ship is crashing into Earth. This is a really interesting premise because, like I mentioned, they have all of these different aliens and they're going to Earth. And as we didn't get to see necessarily the bigger picture of Earth, we got to see a little bit of it in episode 2. Just a really interesting premise of something that, again, I'm like, that's really cool. Aliens on Earth. Simple premise, and it's really, really cool. And the specific character, Cyborg, I thought was pretty interesting. I did enjoy his character. He has a little bit of mystery, of intrigue. He's constantly kind of double-crossing people. When the ship crash lands, Weyland-Yutani people and the other company, the Boy Genius company, Prodigy, Their soldiers and medics and scientists also go to the ship, and he's just walking around and he's convincing people that he's good, and then he's knocking them out. At one point, he ties two people behind on a pole, throws their weapons away, and he very clearly has a motive because he works for Weyland-Yutani. He is a cyborg, and he is trying to get the xenomorph as they're studying him. Now, within the Alien franchise, we've got several times where the xenomorph is trying to be captured by Weyland-Yutani to be experimented on and studied. And so that formula can kind of be a little bit played out. But I don't think it's completely played out here. I think it's interesting specifically because this character, I think, is interesting. Speaking of cyborgs and robots and synthoids, I find that the droids and the cyborgs in the Alien franchise are really unique. And it's something that gives the Alien franchise a little bit more of a spin than just a classic Alien movie, that we explore cyborgs. I mean, Michael Fassbender was the best part of Prometheus and Covenant. David Johnson was one of the best parts of Alien Romulus. So, always interesting exploring that. And here, inside the world, inside of Alien Earth, it's kind of a battle between these companies. Whether you got a certain company, Prodigy, with the youngest trillionaire ever named Cavalier, the Kid Genius, what they have been calling him throughout the series, what he's doing with his droids. You got the cyborgs, you got the normal droids. It's all very interesting, and I'm excited to explore more into that kind of lore. So, speaking of Kid Genius, Cavalier, what he's doing, he has an island, and he's taking kids with terminal diseases, kids that are very sick, and transporting them into synthesoids. You know, so they're not human anymore. They still got the human brain inside, but it's put inside a cyborg body. Basically, they found out a way to cheat death. Interesting idea, right? Very interesting. Well, here's where I start getting into what the hell are they thinking. Because our main character, Marley / Wendy, because when she becomes the synthesoid, she renames herself into Wendy. She convinces the Kid Cavalier to let her and all of these other sick kids that are now synthesoids go to the crashed ship where there are aliens and dangerous things running around, and he agrees. Is it interesting? Yeah. It's a unique way to go, but when you really think about it, they're kids. They're quite literally 12, 13-year-old kids going into this ship with a xenomorph in it? What? So you're telling me that they let these very expensive projects that is groundbreaking for the world, that are technically kids, go face a xenomorph? Not only is that in poor taste because it's a xenomorph against kids, but it makes no sense. Why would the company, the Kid Genius Cavalier, send out his big expensive project to go fight a xenomorph? Now, I get it, in the second episode we start exploring. He wants this xenomorph, he wants whatever's on that ship because of his rivalry with Weyland-Yutani. But why? The big expensive project, the way that they are cheating death in this universe, he's just going to send to go face a xenomorph. Bad idea. Pretty bad idea, and in pretty poor taste considering they are children. Now, I get it. You could say, well, we've seen movies with kids in it that are facing dangers. This is a xenomorph. In the second episode, and we'll touch on this in a minute, he literally commits massacre against soldiers with weapons that are shooting at him, and he just doesn't stop. So you're telling me that all of these soldiers and stuff, there's one xenomorph that's just going on a rampage, and they're basically kids going against him. So that first episode left a big sour taste in my mouth. I was like, why is this the idea you're going? You have all of these interesting ideas. And also, I feel like the execution in that first episode wasn't that strong either. Where I feel like there was a couple touchy CGI moments that, I get it, it's a TV show, but still, feel like they should have balanced it out. There were some awesome moments. I mean, the ship going from the sky, crashing the buildings was actually pretty cool. But it felt like, okay, there's some interesting ideas, but there are also some absolutely terrible ideas that I just can't believe that this is something that you would do. Makes no sense. I don't believe that in this universe, Cavalier would send these kids, these expensive projects, to go fight a xenomorph. And I get it, he's a trillionaire. I don't believe it. I don't believe it one bit. It's stupid. Very, very stupid idea. And it kind of continued in the first half of that second episode. The second episode, I do feel, is extremely better than episode 1, where, especially in the back half of the episode, it gets all that I want. There were some interesting ideas that I really like. I really do like this Cavalier character, where he's just having conversations, and the reason he's doing this, he's a trillionaire, he's a genius, he just kind of wants to have an interesting conversation with somebody. He's trying to basically build someone who is smarter than him. And I think that every scene that he's in is very, very interesting. And another thing, I also love the performances of the synthezoids, where they very much do feel like kids. Like, the fear that they have when they're on the ship, the child stuff they do, the immaturity that they have. I do feel like they do a really great job of playing kids as adults. I also like the Cavalier, because he's very clearly young, he's very clearly a trillionaire, and he's just bored. You know? He wants to talk to somebody smarter than him, and that it's cool, it's interesting. And of course, the rivalry between Weyland-Yutani and Prodigy, his company, also something very interesting. So it's the beginning of the second episode sets up more interesting things, but I feel, again, it's still so ridiculous that these kids in expensive synthezoid project bodies are quite literally going to face a xenomorph and aliens on the ship. Something I have loved about these first 2 episodes was the creatures that we see. There's this one tiny bug thing that goes to these 2 people's necks. You know what I'm talking about when they're tied behind the pole. It goes to their necks and it sucks out all the blood and just kind of turns into this weird blob. That's how it kills people. There's this one eyeball with all these tentacles that is really interesting. In the second episode, there's a cat that's half its body's gone and a crazy eyeball that's like this big. It looks really weird, but then it jumps out of the cat, and rest in peace to that poor cat. But I hate seeing animal cruelty, but that was actually pretty cool, and I do like that creature design. So we are seeing these creatures that we haven't quite seen before within this universe. So that's another thing I really did enjoy. But still, I wasn't quite on board with the overall story, the overall ideas, because I don't believe that they would be in this position in the first place. Lucky for the show, it gets me invested instantly. As soon as we get to a certain spot where there's kind of this dinner party going on, which is ridiculous. Of course, they hear all this carnage outside, and they're still continuing on with their dinner party. Completely ridiculous. But the best part happens when the xenomorph's in the background and he breaks into that apartment and it just turns into creature chaos. Alien xenomorph chaos is awesome. Later on, there's just this awesome shot where, and I forgot to touch on this, but I'll touch on this in a minute. A certain character is running from the xenomorph and the xenomorph jumps off. Really cool shot. And the cyborg comes on. He knocks out the alien and, again, trying to capture this alien for the company. And he kind of freezes it into this freezable bag, starts carrying him. And the Prodigy employees, the Prodigy soldiers, come up. They're like, hey, what are you doing? We're going to put you under arrest. And the xenomorph breaks out. And then more massacre. You're just focusing on the shot of the cyborg. And we're, just like me and you, we're facing each other. And in the background, you just see the xenomorph go crazy and kill all of these people. So it has some awesome carnage, not only with different aliens, but some awesome xenomorph carnage that completely got me invested. I forgot to mention this, but the reason that Wendy is wanting to go on this mission is because she has a brother from her past life. Completely ridiculous part because, like, they're bonding over Ice Age, and a specific line in, I think, like, the second or third Ice Age. I don't know. I'm necessarily full on watch those movies. But a whole relationship between those two. And he thinks that she's dead. His name's Joe. Joe thinks that Wendy / Marley, he knows as Marley, his sister, is dead. And that's why Wendy wants to go, because he's on the ship with the xenomorph. And she knows that she could probably save him. Again, still completely ridiculous. Not completely on board with that. But what I loved about the second half of the episode is that we get more character arcs than I thought we would get. Where normally in a show it takes so freaking long for the reveals to happen. You know that Wendy's his sister, but he doesn't know. And I really just, half of the shows I watch, when they do something like that, I just want them to have a conversation and explain it already. No, in the end of the second episode, they have that conversation. And so in the second episode has that emotional punch and made me care for these characters much more. There's a scene where he actually believes that she's his sister, and he just puts his head on her shoulder, and it's kind of an emotional moment that I really, really did dig. And then the ending of the episode, the Xenomorph, after going on this giant crazy carnage, knocks Joe down into a big hole, and Wendy goes to save him, and it ends the episode. So not only have you already had that emotional arc, so it's going to go in a completely different direction than you expected, but you have the crazy alien chaos that you completely wanted from the show. So the second half of the second episode, where I still wasn't fully invested, made me go, okay, yeah, I'm in. I am sold. I'm invested. I'm excited to see what happens next. I still feel there are completely ridiculous ideas. I feel like there's some interesting ideas. Again, the fact that they're kids, I don't know what they're thinking with that. But it had a little bit of an emotional payoff and left that off the spot where I was like, I want to click next episode. I want to see what happens next. So, where I wasn't invested, where I was so mixed on the show, I'm actually left off at a mixed positive. It still has all the negatives. I'm still not 100% sold, but I'm more in. I'm more invested in where we're heading. So, I am excited for next Tuesday, where I get to see episode 3. Very cautiously optimistic, though. The way that they set up the show is so easy to butcher. They can do... They already have done a ballsy route. They can do another ballsy route and completely just mess up the entire show for me. But the way it left off has potential. So I'm curious. I'm nervous, but I'm curious. So was the episode everything I wanted it to be? No, it wasn't at all. The episode, however, left me off at a part where I was like, I'm curious, and I am excited. So please, that was my spoiler review of episodes 1 and 2 of Alien Earth. I'm curious. I want to know, what are your thoughts? Did you like the show, or are you a little bit more mixed like me? And are you excited for more, hopefully crazy alien xenomorph carnage? And with that said, subscribe.